Bojan from Dialogue with certain changes, certain upgrades and updates. Now we're talking. Man, last time we covered a few fundamentals, right? The LTV, the phases. You were talking about the tools. You were saying that uh, there were certain changes and that you have grown. I know that for sure you have actually grown. What has actually changed? How does dialogue operate uh, over the course of, let's say, several last months?
Yes, correct. So basically, yeah, we've grown like we've grown in revenue. I'm not gonna disclose like the exact numbers, but
Sure.
like we're climbing, always climbing over the OnlyMonster leaderboards. Now we have this certain feature where we see what agency we were. So we actually hit the fifth spot, and it's also on our channel, so you guys can see it. Fifth across all OnlyMonster organizations. So I think we're doing our job fine, just fine. And basically, the main thing that actually took like a significant change is basically the recruitment SOPs and how we actually train and hire people.
Okay.
And it's not about just like recruiting, but it's also like about team narrowing and the filtering basically. So we've basically been in a spot where we had many employees. Then now we're currently running on fewer employees, but we have just the high quality ones, and it
Mm.
basically turned for us and it worked for us. So we're actually having more revenue and less expenses with the smaller portion of people which are performing just great. And we also upgraded our chatting operations. We kind of like niche down a little bit. We're just now thinking on the black hat and gray hat. We also
Mm.
tried some of the organic approaches, which did not go as well for us, since like a culture is basically based on like this kind of like a black hat and gray hat approach. So we mainly focused on this, and we're just niche down now, and we're just working on being focused pretty much on just one traffic source, like 1, 2, 3 traffic sources, and this is where we actually perform. And also from the perspective of also looking into more like partnerships in the future. So that's basically what changed in dialogue, and that's how we grew.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, hiring high quality chatters and making sure you train them well, that's one of the key factors. That sounds like that for sure. And I remember you were mentioning that you're always at a capacity with like some waiting list for the employees that are trying to join. Uh, how big is your team actually like now? And if you could tell me what broke first when you first scaled, like what happened, what did go wrong?
All right, so like actually nothing went wrong, but
All
like
right.
we were just kind of focused on like things that were not so important. So what we did was like first we had this big team of 100 people, so we had a franchise setup, and then we went to 50 people, but 50 people just in like basically just under the dialogue branding. And currently we're running on 30 people and 30 like chatters, not speaking of staff, not speaking of like management and everything on that side. Also having 3 active supervisors, so like it's 24/7 covered. Of course we have like a QC leader that also covers this certain shift, that basically like for example, because most of the supervisors they work 6 days a week, sometimes even 5, and we also have to cover these certain gaps when it comes to the monitoring and like the access granting and just like the regular CRM stuff we have to use actively.
Hmm.
So basically, our team is now like we basically have 30 chatters, and all of these 30 chatters they're basically like either on a remote side of our business and or just like in-house. So we also have an in-house setup and we have the remote setup.
Interesting. That both. That's something that I haven't heard of. Like usually it's either in-house or outsourced, but you have actually both. Interesting. And I also
Yes.
remember you were saying about this biggest myth that hiring cheap chatters to save margins was actually a good idea. How does
Uh,
your pipeline look like now? I mean, it's not like that, and it
yeah.
was never like that in your case, right?
No, no, never, never. So
Right.
I actually changed my opinion on that. I have few
Okay.
friends I met, and they just have this like. I'm not gonna say like a cheap labor, but it's certainly lower commission than the Serbians we hire. And they have this Philippine setup or just like the South African setup or whatever setup they have, but they're certainly like managing it with cost efficiency. And what they do, like they just make SOPs. Their SOPs are just on another level. So they have these good managers, they have this good stuff, good supervising stuff, good monitoring stuff. Like whatever they do, they just do their job extremely good. And their trainers and everybody who actually team leaders, they're leading things good. And even like with the labor that you're gonna pay less, you can make really good results if your team on the other side is well SOP'd and they're like good at what they're doing basically.
What's easier? Like, I mean, managing the in-house, managing outsourcing chatters, that should be different, right?
Yeah, indeed it is. But like even on a remote setup, you can like a lot of guys even have in-house setup with the cheaper labor, or they have just the remote setup with the cheaper labor. But honestly, like it just comes down to the SOPs. Honestly, like how you manage your stuff, like the filtering. Basically, if you filter them well at the very beginning, and you don't have a lot of guys that you're gonna like a lot of undisciplined people, a lot of guys who actually have the certain mentality where they're just looking into like earnings and everything, how much are they gonna earn and not to give much. That's basically the problem. So if you take care of the filtering well, and if you SOP your setup well, then you're good to go. You can scale even with the cost efficiency. Let's put it that way.
Making sure that you have a good setup of chatters with good results is an entire structured procedure. But let me get back to the first stage of it. Could you tell us a little bit about how you screen for like a new chatter? Maybe something that you're paying attention to the most, maybe certain things that you're testing for, like sales instinct, language psychology. Maybe there's something that you can't teach, or what's there that you're looking for.
I mean, like obviously, like the language is just the priority because we usually like take care either of the U.S. audience or the European audience, or like it's usually like top tier one countries.
Yeah.
Like we don't always take tier two countries, but obviously, like the U.S. culture is like basically a must to know, and they should be like on the socials all the times. Like knowing like what U.S. culture is about. That's basically the non-negotiable, and have to be like they have to know a little bit about tech, so they actually
Sure.
have to know how to use PC, how to use their laptops, MacBooks, phones. It's very some simple stuff, basically. But mainly what I'm looking into when I'm searching for guys, so it's basically their mindset, and it's also like a discipline they have, and also if they have like a sales background, that's like a big
Hmm.
plus for us. Not just the sales background, but actually the social backgrounds. For example, the waiters fit perfectly in this category because they have
Okay.
this social setup, and they're also like having they know how to get the tips. So it's
Hmm.
basically like a mental thing. So
And
pretty
they
much that's
keep
what.
getting the tips after all, not
Yeah,
just sales, right?
yeah, basically like it's a setup that where you get what you get actually for the experience you deliver, pretty much.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and that's interesting that anyone who is actually right now working at a totally different position, totally different role, could you get a good use of those social skills that they got, and then train to become a chatter and make a whole new level of income. But how many people do actually apply? Let's say for you to get one chatter onto accounts, how many chatters do you screen first?
Let me just give like a rough I mean, I'm not 100% sure with the certainty, but let's say we have like 20 applicants from meta
Hmm.
ads. That's
All
like
right.
we call it like the dirtiest way, basically,
Hmm.
because there is a lot of applications, there's a lot of filtering
Right.
throughout the website. We do like there is a certain funnel that we have, but for example we have about 20 applicants. For example, half of them actually get to the training, and just one out of these 20 guys actually end up being our chatters. So in about 100 meta ads IG applicants that we run through the meta ads creatives, we have about five chatters, for example, five guys
Okay.
who are going to work and they're going to be a trial chatters.
Yeah, of course. There is always a trial while you make sure they're good. And do you do some kind of like training, like onboarding a brand new chatter? How does it look like when they first go to their first shift, when you accepted them? How do you help them to become a professional chatter?
Right. So basically, like, also touching onto like the past question, there's also something I haven't mentioned. So we also have the referral system. We're also
Oh,
having this external kind of like basically like we have also, for example, the Reddit approach. These guys are just perfect, X approach. But also what we do is just the referrals are something that works best for us because we kind of try to trigger this chain effect. For example, we invite somebody and then he invites his friends and they usually pull out some of the other friends and then we have this like big
yeah.
pool of people who are friends, that develop like this certain community, and that's the way how we operate. But kind of like the training part is just like how we actually walk them through the training is honestly like a long process. That's the only thing actually stopping us from rapidly scaling, because we have also the filter form. That's the first thing they have to go through. There's also the interview. After the interview, they go through the first training phases, the first theory phases. So it actually takes 3 days for them to do that. And we also have like the practical part where they watch somebody else work. For example, the top performers, they watch them work, they ask them questions, they go through it. Then it's their time to basically complete and send their homework, because they are usually having this homework after each session where we actually see what they went through. And basically for the test shift, that's actually their last kind of a test. So basically they go through a test shift. It's basically the ultimate way to find out what they learn. And as soon as they complete the test shift, either successfully or not, like it's gonna basically, for example, if they did not complete it successfully, they get the second chance.
Hmm.
Just once, depends on what they did. Honestly, like we're heavy on filtering, so some people never get a second chance if they haven't listened to what we said. But basically, yeah, like if they pass the test shift, they become a trial chatters. So for the next 2 weeks, their performance and their messages are carefully monitored. So basically, they also go through the chatter improvement project. So it's actually called CIP for us. And we also have a team behind that's going to monitor what they do, and they're going to teach them more advanced stuff.
Like
So
a
they learn
quality
the
control. Nice.
not like a quality control, but more like a quality assurance, but on
Okay.
a training perspective, pretty much.
All right. All right. I wouldn't be able to easily tell the difference, but I'm sure that you define these two separate processes. And yeah, that sounds like a systematic approach. I think that I understand it like this. First, the person needs to get there and become approved, so to say, to go on their first shift. Then they try to do things as other professionals do, but then at some point they develop kind of their own style. Does it happen, or it's actually like a factory of top-notch professional chatters that they kind of, McDonald's way? The burger needs to be tasty, so every burger tastes the same way. Is it unique for top performance, or top performance actually is something that you can break down into like a list of things you do?
It's not really like a factory approach. It is a corporate approach towards like how we treat things with the professionalism and
Right.
everything. But you can't always have top performance. Most of the guys they're gonna come up like, for example, we tend not to have the like less than a B tier chatters. So for example, if we have the C tier chatters, we give them like a little room to improve, and we started like more lately trying to like within like the past month or a little less than a month, we kind of like gave the opportunity to these guys to get better, or either like find their place in the industry, but not with us. So we're kind of having just the B tier chatters. We categorize them as the guys with a big potential. We have A tier chatters, and we have also S tier chatters. So this is how the structure works for us. And basically like they can get better, but it's just like basically repetition and the experience and watching the top performers work. So they kind of develop their own chatting style, but it's based on what the other guys actually do at the end. So that's how they develop it.
And how much time could it last for them to actually become a good chatters, and for you to make a decision? Okay, we should continue with this chatter. We should not continue with the other one. What's the time range?
It's like if you were just to take like a window roughly, for example, on average, I would say like it takes them 3 months to be like
Hmm.
to be the best version of themselves, and we actually see like are they either like if they become like an ST or chatter. So most of them they can actually like show us they're gonna be like ST or chatter in just a few shifts, but
Hmm.
it also depends on how hard are they willing to work on their craft basically.
But
So
would you say that it's mostly like the more messages you send, the better, the more PPDs you try to sell, the better, or it's like there is a balance. You should not overcome a certain limit. How does it work?
yeah, indeed there is. So we kind of do the energy matching. For example, for every message that subscribers send us, we
Hmm.
tend to send at least two or three. So we kind of
Okay.
try to outmatch him with the energy and basically bring that positivity to the table, because the first impression is always the last. That's how we do it basically, and that's our approach.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you think that there is a system that could do some part of this work? Probably chatters more focusing on sales, while there is some kind of chatbot that does some preliminary stage of it. What's your thought about it?
There are certain agencies, actually this is quite of interesting, because like we also have to embody on AI utilization, because it's going to be a big thing in the next few years, and I honestly think that the AI is going to actually replace the chatting agency at some point, because it's going to get so advanced.
You
And
think it can at some point?
yeah, how it actually is going to go, it's just basically like a chatting agency. Then we have an AI chatting agency, pretty much, with whichever the AI chatting is the best. So actually, the employees with the chatbot AI, they're gonna it's gonna look like that. And after that, we're just gonna go into SaaS, pretty much. It's gonna be the chatting software in a way. So that's how it's gonna look. But let's not go like a lot of basically like out of topic. So from my perspective, so sorry, what was the question? So I kind of forgot
I,
it.
I mean, the chat bot that could do some
Oh, yeah.
part of the chatting, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
could not replace chatters completely at this stage, right?
Yeah, at this
Chatters
stage.
sell way better than any chat bot, but potentially doing some kind of preliminary so the chatters could more be focused on selling, right? What do you think?
Yeah,
I mean, that,
yeah. There are certain agencies that take this approach. I'm not gonna name them obviously, but it's also good. It's a double-edged sword,
hmm,
because like you're kind of like actually saving up on the manpower, and you're also like your schedule is gonna be more flexible, and you're also gonna like have a uh, you need less chatters, because the warm-up stage is taken care of.
hmm,
But honestly, like by the way, you disappeared on the stream.
yeah,
So pretty much,
it seems to be. But
yeah,
can you hear me? You can hear me still, right?
yeah, I can hear you well, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, um, if it's okay, I would really like to get back to the topic. I hope, guys, you don't mind the fact that I am no longer visible. But anyway, we are here to hear what Bojan has to say, and I'm actually excited to learn more. I still have a few questions here to ask. So yeah, we were talking about AI chatting, and I think I heard your opinion on that, my man. Let me ask you about the like operations in your team. You have like a big team. I know it was 100 people. Now it's 30 top professionals, but it's still a very big team across many accounts. And let me ask you about the quality. Like you keep it consistent, and it's not only about training a new chatter. It's also about making sure that chatters maintain that high quality of communication. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Like, is it like you say, not just QA, not quality control, but quality assurance? Maybe some supervisors, maybe some kind of scorecards or something that keeps them top quality.
All right, touching onto like AI implementation. So what we do, we have this AI agents what we develop with a certain tools, and basically we have this AI QA and the AI monitoring team. So basically we kind of it serves some sort of automation, but it's just a tool at this very moment. We're looking forward to scale it to like for the AI chat agents to be like not the chat agents, but the agents to be basically like a main part of our monitoring and our supervising protocol. And we're just going to have the managers manage them and take care of the certain things like downtime, whatever actually it is, like the pauses approving for the remote employees and etc. So but we tend always to find like the new roles, like there's always like people basically like
Hmm.
Like we tend to find new roles. For example, the CRM manager is going to basically be responsible for utilizing OnlyMonster to its fullest on all of the accounts. So
Hmm.
basically setting up the message campaigns, priority messages, online campaigns, all these things you guys, your software actually gives us. Like basically he keeps track of the new feature you guys brought,
Hmm.
the audit logs, of the messages guard, on all accounts. He takes care of the CRM. We also have this Walt uploading guy who basically takes care. It's a virtual assistant. He just takes care of that as well. So we're always open to finding new positions. So basically, as the team grows, there's always some position to outsource, for example, like
Hmm.
to basically also to keep process more smooth, pretty much.
Yeah.
But we do have the supervisors, so they act as the monitoring team and also the quality assurance team. So that's part of their job. Basically, they have the 8-hour shifts and they basically go through the chats, they go through the monitoring. They're always there helping the chatters throughout the setup we have on either Discord or Telegram.
Nice, nice. And I like the fact that you have a specific role for each people, like those who need to train chatters, make sure the updates are implemented, make sure that quality is still very high. Nice. I mean, this is how you sustain a structured system. Nice. And um, I mean, when it comes to all these supervisors, trainers, mentors, this setup. Uh, I mean, do you need to be involved in each layer of this setup, or do you form part of some of this, or you are like everywhere in this process, or it's rather like a structure that already is built and works on its own? How does it look like?
Okay, so basically, like I have a partner of mine. He's called Daniel. So he's
Hmm.
basically more responsible for the KPI stuff, for the metrics, for this certain technical stuff. So basically, he takes care of the SOPs. I'm more of like a visionary guy, so I have a vision. I try to implement it, and I'm good with people, and I'm good with sales. So
Hmm.
basically, that's my side. So we either create a system together, and then he makes sure it's implemented well. And yeah, he's been doing an amazing job for the last few months. So big props to him as well.
Cool. That's nice. And you also mentioned that you have a specific person in the team that trains chatters to use the new features and new tools that are being implemented. Are there some
Yeah,
AI features that you actually use and some of them that you actually don't? Maybe there was something that you saw as like, okay, this is like not very much needed into our setup.
yeah. So we kind of don't use the AI replies that much. We just
Oh,
use them when we have to, pretty much. So
okay.
we kind of train our own AI. We kind of give him instructions and everything, but it just basically meant for a relationship building part. Like we use like fans persona generation a
Hmm.
lot. So basically, one of our main things we kind of implemented also throughout AI. We're also working on a software that every chatter is going to use. It's going to be basically like a checklist of what they should do in the shift. Also, if they need help with anything chatting related, there's going to be the agent who's always going to give them some advice, basically going to be fed by us, with the
Hmm.
information and with the of what's considered with the quality and what's considered not. So basically, it's going to look like that. And yeah, pretty much. We also have this guy who's always utilizing the CRM like features, and like everything is actually used until the end, because
Hmm.
our big issue and our big bottleneck at one time was actually we were using OnlyMonster, but we never like looked that deep into KPI. We never looked that
Hmm.
deep into features that guys offer. And now that we're just basically utilizing it to the fullest. It basically like skyrocketed our sales pretty much, and
Cool.
basically you guys always bring out the improvements, so it helps us a lot. And the big thing that would help us a lot is also the follow-up features on the PPVs and everything. So
Nice.
that's the feature we're highly looking forward to.
That's cool. I appreciate that you mentioned all that. That sounds like you actually do implement all those things. I'm glad to hear that, actually. Yeah. And maybe at some point, even the evaluation of the performance could be done by, like, with the help of AI to some extent, like reviewing what was done, giving some kind of advice, with real human supervisors too being involved, but maybe even with AI tools doing that to some extent. But yeah, I mean, chatters, you hire them thoroughly. You train them well. You make sure that the quality is consistent and persistent. But when it comes to burnout and churn, those things are also real, right? I mean, how do you keep your best people from leaving or like even
Mm.
going with competitors, like how do you make sure of that?
So the burnout and churn, it's real, it's here, but it's just very important that you're flexible with your guys actually taking the time off. So we never tend to like, usually what we used to do, we used to let guys work double shifts. So they were working for 16 hours
Oh,
straight. We also had 12-hour shifts in corporations because these guys, they were just keen to work as much as possible. But
wow.
it's something that I don't encourage that much right now. So I'm basically always telling people like 6 out of 7 days a week is
Hmm.
basically the sweet spot. Like if you want to do extra work, then yeah, go for it. But 5 days a week is just the minimum. We always have each chatter work either like 5 days. Sometimes they get less days. It depends on the schedule. It depends like where we can put them. But it's pretty much like how we operate. And basically the burnout and churn could be it's a thing, it will happen over time, like you can't stop it, but like obviously if you just create a good environment, like good in-house setup and good remote community setup where the people are actually going to grow the community, where they're going to enjoy working with others and talking with people, you're always going to have like good results. And the thing is also like if you have this reward system set up in place, for example, you always leave the doors open for improvement
Yeah.
like for the top performers. Yeah. So if you always keep them, like treat them well, you have like a transparent approach, without like actually punishments, you rather just hop on a call. Like we kind of like a few weeks ago actually we completely put aside our punishment system. Like we are not charging people with penalties anymore. We just go in a call, we tell them, okay, this is what you did, so why did you do that? Basically
Hmm.
just there is no talk and solve pretty much. And
Improvement
this is
rather than punishment, right? Right.
yeah, basically, because our culture from the Serbian standpoint, Serbians are very tough people. They're also smart people.
Hmm.
If you punish them, it's just going against you pretty much.
Yeah,
So like,
for sure.
just talk it out. There's nothing that like intelligent people can solve with the communication. Rather than war.
Totally. Yeah, and when you face certain challenges, you kind of like make sure that you do your best to overcome them and keep going, not just, punish. I like the way you put it, and that's actually something that totally makes sense to me personally. And
Yeah, and also
hmm,
I would like to also touch on saying like I forgot, so sorry about it. Basically, like good pay is also very important. Like you have to pay them
hmm,
premium because obviously
right,
they're gonna stay longer. So it's basically a long-term game. And like also if any of them wants to like start something on their own or they want to swap the agency or team, you should always leave the door open because in
for sure.
general there's very little bad people on this world. It's always the like miscommunication where it actually gets like on the other side. So there's nothing to talk and solve. Basically, I always tend to say it because of some of the experience I experienced, like some experience I had recently. So pretty much, yeah, that's my opinion on it as well.
For sure. And making sure that they actually want to stay is done by actually making sure that they get everything they need and even more. And yeah, that's something I share and totally agree. And for those who watch us and they have just started an agency recently and some owners or operational managers running their in-house chatting teams, in your opinion, what's the one thing that they should fix first?
Hmm. Uh, like, is it for a chatting agency or is it just the regular agency like
I
people run?
mean,
Like,
we are focusing here on chatting, right? Today, this is the main topic. So let's say the chatting agency, what the thing that they should look into and probably get it fixed as soon as possible.
okay, so the biggest problem for me, like by far, was like I didn't have things as speed. Like
Hmm.
we never documented stuff. We had the good systems in place. We had few mirror boards, but actually it comes down to like bringing all this like big Notion or like recently it was like a big Monday with Notion. So I kind of don't suggest it anymore. You can use like Slab. Slab is also a good place where you can store your documents, or it can be either in the notes, just like anywhere you want. Pretty much you can find like any kind of solution. There's like a variety of platforms where you can actually store your information. So
Hmm.
basically document all the processes, all flow charts, all of the hiring pipelines, everything. So basically, get your, like, if you're a chatting agency, get your model acquisition in the place, like give people something, give them people to work with you, because obviously me, I have a big brand, I have a big agency already. Most of the people, they're going to come to me, so you actually have to stand out from what we did. And also, like, there is also a lot of upcoming agencies who actually, like, they hire until some point. That's basically what we did as well, and then they stop. So your recruitment pool should never stop. That's basically a repetitive process you should always take care of, and it's actually the first thing you want to focus after SOPing, actually, and documenting all of the processes you have in your agency and all the operations.
Documenting everything you have in terms of processes, that's an interesting thing that helps you work with the teams, so everyone knows what you're doing, and even if you onboard a new manager, they get into the processes easier. That, yeah, sounds totally fair and logical and makes sense to me. Something that I was actually surprised to hear is that at some point, I remember you said that you were recommending agencies to pivot from working with a chatting agency onto building their own chatting team at some point. Do you still think that this is something that should be done at some point? And if so, like when?
Actually, yeah, that's what I say to majority of the people. So it's actually not just a sales pitch. In some way, it is. Like, people are
Hmm.
just like way more like they see it from a less interest perspective, but actually it is a thing. So basically, like, having your own chatting team is the end goal. So you're
Hmm.
actually paying less for it. You're having full control over it. It's easier to maintain, but what it takes time to set up, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes right people. So you actually have to find the right people. And you're also, like your processes, like, you're always going to have this recruitment pool of people. It depends on how many models you have as an agency. But the chatting agency, a lot of people see it from a bad perspective. They see
Hmm.
that as some of the agencies are going to use AI chatbot, or they're going to use the scripts, and they're just going to do that or whatever. So what you should do, you just get your SOPs right, you get your chatting SOPs right, and basically just see what the chatting agency does on your account. Chatting agency is a tool. It's a service. It's not the way your agency should work, because obviously the chatting agencies, for example, as mine does, we charge premium for what we do, and we deliver.
Hmm.
So basically, you're gonna lower the costs by just seeing what we do and replicating it over time. You just see how it looks. You basically focus on the marketing, and when it's time to actually get your own chatting team, then you just implement everything we did. You just copy everything. It's not the secret, like, I haven't invented chatting. There is nothing that actually separates me other than the hard work and the SOPs from
Hmm.
something you can do. So that's basically what I always say to people.
Yeah, so at that moment, they might want to watch this video, our recording again, to build their own system and do it by themselves. Curiously, that you mentioned the fact that the high costs for premium chatting, actually, they are formed from the money that you make for the agency, right? So it's not only about paying you more, it's getting way more money because of premium chatting, and out of that higher amount of money, you pay a certain big percentage to the chatting agency. So that's kind of like a perfect start for an agency. This is what I hear. And then at some point, they build their own chatting team, right?
That's correct. That's correct. It's just the irresistible offer we present, and it's basically a very realistic offer. It's gonna pay off. Like, for example, we don't always have a successful projects, but majority of our projects, like 90% of them, they're good, or they, like, either sometimes we also fail at some point, but it's normal. Nothing's perfect basically. So yeah,
Hmm.
I can advise some of the industry names into having their own chatting. We also basically scale their chatting for them, show them how it works. I'm not gonna name people, but like, some big names actually were taught from us, and they're just basically having this
Hmm.
kind of a setup, and they're stop being our clients. They have their own chatting team, and yeah, they're basically on top of their game, because they just replicated what worked, and it makes sense, like, logically, to just, like, have your own chatting team for
When
less money and make more money.
when someone copies what you do and succeed at that, this is when you start feeling like you're not only doing a good job, but you're actually doing an impact to the whole industry. Love it, man. This is golden. I mean, despite all the technical things that we had during this call. I really think that this was very valuable with all the uh, points that you mentioned, with all the systems that you named, and all the processes that you formed. And now people can try and do the same thing. If they are building their own agency from ground up right now, they might want to get in touch with a chatting agency like yourself. We will definitely leave a contact below. At some point, they will be growing even more, building their own chatting setup. And I hope that this has actually been valuable for you guys, insightful, and the information that we share with interesting individuals from the inside the industry. I hope you all enjoy, and I would really like to thank Bojan. I'm really glad that all these changes, improvements, they made you even better, even stronger, even making even more money. And I am really thankful for sharing all this information for younger generations of agencies and chatters growing up right now.
Perfect, perfect. It was my pleasure, Tim. It was my pleasure. I hope
Thank you, man.
I delivered some value to some of the guys listening to this.
For sure, for sure. Guys, if you enjoy what Boyan was saying, because you were waiting for me for several minutes, I really appreciate that fact. If you still enjoyed what you listened to, I invite you to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more interesting, insightful videos and live streams on our YouTube. Thank you, everyone who was today with us. Thank you, everyone who is watching us on the recording. Thank you again, Boyan. This was golden and very insightful. Guys, see you soon, hear you soon. Stay tuned. Hope you enjoy. Have a good one.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.